Hello and welcome to this episode of Community Connections, airing right here on OROMIA11. Today's guest is here to talk to us about his organization, T.O.U.C.H Outreach, and the work that they're doing across the Twin Cities to engage the community and to prevent violence. They have an upcoming event taking place on the 31st of July, and it is free, open to the public, and family friendly, happening right at Martin Luther King Park. This is going to be a wonderful episode you won't want to miss. Stay tuned. Muhammad Abdul Ahad, I'm so excited to have you join me here on the program, Community Connections. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Now, you are known in the community as Mo, so we will call you Mo today.
Yeah.
Now, you are here on behalf of your organization, T.O.U.C.H Outreach, and you all have an event coming up at the end of July, and a Stop the Violence event taking place at King Park. Now, some people may hear T.O.U.C.H and know exactly what you all do, and then some people may wonder, what are you guys doing in the community, and how does it relate to community violence or the prevention of community violence? Can you talk to me about the work of T.O.U.C.H here in the Twin Cities?
Absolutely. T.O.U.C.H Outreach, we are a nonprofit organization that's focused on violence prevention and intervention in the city of Minneapolis. Specifically, we're focused in South Minneapolis because I'm from, the South Side, grew up in the Phillips neighborhood. Okay. So that's been like, my focal point of like, starting, because the relationships had started there in community. So I said, we need something in a community that reflects community. And, I thought it was important to have a place where youth and families can come to in the center of the community when they need help to identify or locate different resources and, different things that they might not have, the access to find. And I think, having T.O.U.C.H Outreach as a community, resource center right there that, a lot of families are able to, access that and really get some of the services that they need without, having that barrier, trying to find and going to look for, different things. So I thought just, creating something like that for people can identify and know exactly where to go when they need help.
Now, I see you have on your apparel today, your t-shirt as well as your hat, and T.O.U.C.H is an acronym.
Yep.
Can you share with our viewers what the acronym is referring to?
Well, T.O.U.C.H Outreach is exactly what it says. T.O.U.C.H is teaching our urban communities hope. I thought bringing hope to communities was very important because, we have been having trying times in our community, especially since the 2020, since the murder of George Floyd. It felt like a lot of hope was lost at that time. Although the organization had started a year prior, it wasn't until that happened where it really just catapulted, the work that we were like centered and focused on doing in the community. But that name really, sticks out to me because a lot of people was like, man, that's pretty dope. Like, how did you come up with that? So it's a whole story behind that as well. Yeah.
If you feel like sharing it, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, so I was doing outreach, community outreach, it was being a mentor. It wasn't a title or name that was associated with it. One of my friends' brother had just got murdered. And we were in the local park at PV Field Park, that's located right off 25th in Chicago and Franklin Avenue, apologize. And, we were grieving, people were grieving, emotions were high and, a lot of people were, frustrated, mad and, wanted to retaliate, to avenge the death. And, and I was just out there talking to a few of the youngsters and I was just like, just take some time, be patient, give yourself time to heal and, responding with violence or revenge is not the answer all the time. Because now we end up being in the same situation all over again. And they were all looking at me and was like, man, we ain't got time for those Martin Luther King speeches, And we were just talking and one of the little youngsters was just saying like, man, we understand, the encouraging words, but sometimes we just need people to reach out and touch us. And when he said that, I was just like, man, touch, he was like, reach out and touch her, reach out and touch her. So I was like, man, touch. I said, I got to do something that means something with that word touch. And I'm like, we already doing outreach, so T.O.U.C.H Outreach. So it just made sense. So I was like, it just really resonated with me because sometimes, the physical touch can take the mood change the mood of someone in that time. It's like a baby being, baby crying, but when you pick up that baby with that physical touch, that baby mood changes. It's like it's now all of a sudden the baby is calm because he feels safe. And that touch, that physical touch can change a lot of things. So that's how I ended up coming up with Touch Outreach, and those acronyms with that was because it's teaching our urban communities hope. So that's what it is.
I think that's powerful. That acronym, but also the work you all are doing. Now, recently there's been an uptick in violence with an 11-year-old being murdered in broad daylight at Fowler Park in North Minneapolis. What has been the response of the community with this uptick in violence, as well as what do they say that they need to be supported during this time?
I think, the response that we've been getting from community is like, we need more of you guys out here. The presence of individuals that do a lot of street outreach like what we do in community. The presence is, we really need local governments to step up and support a lot of the work that we're doing, because without us, then who? We know these communities. We have the relationships with a lot of these individuals out here. Some of these kids that's out here, that's being targeted, and some that's just innocent, getting shot, just being in groups, being influenced, just running up behind different groups. So we have those relationships with some of these kids. So why not, pour into different resources and programs so we can have a bigger presence and, create those safe spaces for people to come to, so we can prevent some of these things from happening. I think we have to start there, and also hold some of these parks accountable. What happened to some of these programs that was existing back when I was growing up? We used to get up in the morning to go shoot basketball at the local park or Boys and Girls Club. What happened to that? We have to get back to that. It's enough resources out there if you collaboratively come together and you actually want to see some change happen, and you actually want to prevent these things. Support it.
I think that's very well said. Now, you all are having an event. Touch Outreach is having an event on the 31st of this month. It is a free, family-friendly event at Martin Luther King Park, and it is taking place. What is the time frame of said event?
Well, the time frame, we'll be out there from 2 to 7 p.m., 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. It's on the Thursday. A lot of people ask me, why are you always having it on the Thursday? I said Thursday is just one of the days that means something to us. We could have easily did it on a weekend, but sometimes we want to be able to provide, something fun during the week for families, right? Because sometimes there's nothing for families to do during the week, so everybody wait for the weekend to do something. So that Thursday was, it means something to us, but 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. But it never ends at 7 p.m. We always go to almost 10 o'clock at night.
Okay.
So much fun, so people just be like, I'm not ready to leave yet, but, it's looking forward to having a good time.
I think that's wonderful. What can attendees expect from the Stop the Violence event?
Man, it's going to be a lot of fun. I don't even know what to expect this year. We have so many great, vendors and partners that's showing up that want to give back to community. I think that's the very unique thing about this. You just don't know what to expect at times, but you're going to expect unlimited fun, right? We're going to have bouncy houses. We're going to have water slides. We're going to have zip lines. We're going to have bungee swings. We're going to, you name it, it's going to be out there. Foam guns, music, dance, everything. So and that's just, that's just the start of it. It's going to be so many other surprises and giveaways throughout the day. I think that people is going to be excited and very, very proud that they showed up, happy that they showed up to this event. So
you guys are going to have, I saw on the list earlier, you guys are going to have DJ Ray Mills out there playing music at a portion of the event. There will also be food giveaways. There's going to be gym shoes available, giveaways. For parents that are out there, I'm sure like many trying to decide how to stay within budget, but also make sure that their scholar is fashionably forward by the time school starts and during this summer. Make sure that you come out and get some shoes. This event will be hosted by the comedian Shed G as well as B. Croc, who will also be out there. This is going to be a wonderful event. You have so many amazing community partners that are also joining you while you do this event. It's going to be Target, KMOJ, True Stone Financial, and so many more. Those are a lot of heavy hitters. What do these community partnerships mean to you at Touch?
I mean, they mean everything. Without them, there's no me. They're just like, with the staff that shows up to do this work to make any of this possible. Without them, there's no me. Without everybody buying into this collectively, of event like this wouldn't even happen. I think just the support just from, the first, vendor or sponsor, it means a lot, because once you see one, a lot of people start seeing, oh, well, if they're going to do it, I'm going to do it. And I think what the importance of that is just building that relationship, that trusting relationship, and showing up and consistently and giving back into community is, what organization or entity don't want to be a part of that, especially the positivity and the feedback that you get from it when something like this is when you actually go out there and you see it and you're just like, wow. So yeah.
I think that is very important. You all at T.O.U.C.H use a very specific model. It is a 6-prong approach to addressing community issues: public safety, outreach, youth mentoring, violence prevention, and community engagement. What made you decide on those specific 6 to try and reshape what you were seeing in your community?
I mean, just what you said, when you look around community, those are all the areas that that's kind of lacking in community. When you look around your community, you don't see a lot of different supporting things that support community that's accessible right there in the middle of your community. So it was important for us to have, be place-centered in that community that needs a lot of those different resources, like the mentorship, the prevention, and, programming and different things. So, I mean, you can go right outside here. Yeah, you can find it in a local hospital or, government center. You can find those resources, but those buildings are intimidating to some people that never really dealt with those type of systems and that don't understand them. So
Absolutely.
Having a community space in the center of the need and building those relationships is important, so people can feel comfortable to come to a place and say, hey, I know I can go get help there. So I think that's why we took that approach, because that was the center of what we were seeing that was lacking around in these different communities that we come from.
I think that's very powerful. Now, you talked about some of the vendors and some of the resources that will be available. Hopefully that starts to change the way people see engaging some of these entities that we've referred to earlier.
Absolutely.
Start to make them feel like they are a part of the process.
Absolutely. And
see themselves reflected not just in the community but in places of power.
Absolutely. Because I think it's important, because the community holds some of those relationships with some of those businesses by spending our dollar in a lot of these establishments. So it's important for them to be able to show up in community and also give back and show that appreciation. And I think that's why it's important to have different types of vendors to show up in center of community, because you don't really see a lot of them showing up on a consistent basis, because the relationship is the most important piece. And I know I'm not the only one that's doing it, but I think I'm just the only one that put them out there on their center stage, or put them on, these flyers and promote them, and say, hey, this organization or this business is a part of this event. They're supporting this. Come out and build relationships and get to know some of these people that support the community. I just think that's important, to just have those relationships, and people come out in the center of the community and appreciate those that spend dollars in their businesses. So, yeah.
Now, I know we have a strong list of vendors already, but are you open to taking any more before the 31st? Absolutely.
I'm open to taking on many more sponsors, vendors. I think that's, it's important for people to come out, in community and build relationships, especially with some of those different resources and different things that people don't even know exist. So that's why the importance of this event here is to do just that, put some of these vendors and sponsors right in the center of community, so community can come and build those relationships, and they can build those relationships with community, because a lot of times people don't know that some of these people even exist.
I think that's very important, and hopefully it'll start to help them expand their reach in the community.
Absolutely.
Now, how do we stay connected to the work of T.O.U.C.H Outreach?
Well, we got a website. You can follow us on our website at www.touchoutreach.org, or you can follow us on Instagram at T.O.U.C.H Outreach. You'll see a bunch of hands right there in the top icon. I think that's a way a lot of people keep up with the work that we're doing out in the community if they're not directly connected to me or my staff, that they find us on, via Instagram or, just on our web, and to try to keep up with a lot of different things we got going on in the community. So that's a good way.
Lastly, I just want you to look directly in this camera and offer our viewers a personal invitation to the 5th annual Stop the Violence event that is taking place on the 31st.
Hey community, love y'all. Good morning, happy days. Come out Thursday, July 31st, 2 to 7 p.m. Don't miss the 5th annual Southside Stop the Violence Community Cookout. If you missed it last year, you don't want to miss it this year. We're going to have a lot of great things out there. I can't even list all the fun. It's just going to be nonstop fun throughout the day. Not unlimited food. There's going to be some good cooks out there this year, y'all. The list is crazy. So come on out, enjoy a fun environment. Build relationships with community, and get to it's going to be a lot of great fun. So come on out there. I'll see y'all out there July 31st from 2 to 7 p.m.
Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of
Absolutely.
Community Connections. It
Absolutely.
has been wonderful to hear about the work that T.O.U.C.H Outreach is doing across the Twin Cities. And I hope that you are able to partner with more sponsors to support the work you are doing, but also with more civic leadership so that they can start to understand better the plight of the people and the pulse on what you guys are doing every day.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. This is a great opportunity. I'm glad to be able to come here and promote, not only the event, but just the importance of, collaboration and, keeping an eye on what's going on in community and knowing that, there are people out here that's willing to, collaborate and, work together so we can, help prevent some of these things that's going on within community. So I appreciate you for having me on the show. And, thank you to all the listeners and viewers that's out there for just tuning in.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate you.
Unfortunately, that is all the time that we have for this episode of Community Connections. Be sure to stay connected to the social media of T.O.U.C.H Outreach and stay up to date with all of the current events that they are doing throughout the year. Make sure that you go to the Stop the Violence event. And if you see somebody out in the community with the apparel on, stop and connect with them so you can figure out better ways to help improve the community around you and hopefully stop the violence in your neighborhood. As always, I am Anna Orr. This has been Community Connections, airing right here on OROMIA11. I look forward to connecting with you soon.